And there he is.
I like the I like that intro. I think I mentioned that before. It makes me feel important when you get the cheering and the applause and all that too. So how is it going this fine Friday fun day, Mr. Kaufman?
It is going very well, very good. Um, Here in the vacation capital of the Midwest.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. No, we're. It's funny. It's what mid-April right now, and from what I haven't been outside today. But from what I understand, it's like almost 90 degrees already. That's crazy.
Yep. But luckily, if you just wait 2 days, it'll be 57 degrees for the
That's
high.
true. I did see that. Yeah.
So it's all good. It's all good. And people wonder why those of us in the Midwest are constantly sick and we're coughing and we're all sick. It's literally 85 one day and 45 the next. It's like that's true. It just happens all the time, especially in the spring and fall.
Yeah. Not to
So
mention this pollen. I've been seeing just all of this pollen floating around in the air, and cars are covered with it, and uh, you know, yellow sheets of pollen everywhere. But yeah, I'm still. The squirrels are back. We haven't talked about squirrels in a long time, but the squirrels are back and they're tearing things up already. So I'm gonna have to get really, really mean, really, really quick.
yeah, got to get aggressive with the squirrels.
You do.
And just to make sure people understand, a squirrel is nothing but a rat with a fuzzy tail.
Yeah.
True statement. They're in the same rodent family. They're rodents. They're in the same rodent family. Just FYI. Scares carolinensis, the gray squirrel, which we have an abundance about here. And notice, by the way, when we were kids, we had red squirrels,
Yes.
and then there were a few gray squirrels.
Yep.
And when they intermated, they made black squirrels.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has noticed this, but the red squirrel
Is a few and far
is
between.
gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah. Yep.
They're all gray squirrels now, just out of curiosity. So, and they've gotten a bit more aggressive, those bastards. So yeah, they need to be dealt with in the harshest possible sense. So,
Brother, I've got a peach tree in my. You've heard me talk about this, but I've got a peach tree in my backyard. I've had it back here for. I don't know. I planted it as a sapling. It's probably 12 years old, 13 years old now. This thing will produce literally hundreds of peaches. In the 12 years that I have had this tree in my backyard, I have gotten four peaches off of this tree in 12 years. That was a terrible investment. I mean,
you
those
mean the squirrels just aren't eating the nuts?
no.
They're-
When there's a dearth, when there's a really a dry spell, that's where they get their water from.
oh yeah.
So say what you want, but that high powered pellet gun's going to be tuned up, sighted in, and coming in really handy this year because they are just everywhere out here. Anyway, this is not about real estate at all. So
Well, it kind of is. It's about protecting your investment, right?
that's true because one of our students has. I actually had a property. I bought a 4-family that I bought that was infested with squirrels. And that was one of the stipulations that when I bought it, is like you got to get a pest control somebody out here to take care of this problem, and they did. And then we've got one of our students now who's dealing with kind of a little. I think it's a raccoon infestation, I believe.
I think it's coons. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know why they can't. They got their own place. They can just leave us alone, as far as I'm concerned.
That's right.
Speaking of, by the way, I'm sure you had your call with him, with the one who just got the property sold. He's actually got 2 properties sold.
Yep.
And what a screamer! What a screamer of a deal! I mean, that guy. I didn't do the math. I didn't math it all out, but I think he's somewhere around 80K, 70 to 80K in profit on that deal. And it's wild because he was going to hold on to that property. He was going to hold on to it. I'm not saying that. I mean, rehab it and flip it is what I don't mean by buy and hold. He was going to flip it, and probably he might have made that much as a full blown flip, but he would have held it for 6 months. You know,
Yeah, probably would have been more at 50-ish, probably on the 45 to 50 when it was said and done after the
yeah.
hold. Yeah,
So there you go, man. A quick nickel beats a slow dime any day
yeah,
of the week.
yeah. That we call that the quick flip. So that's what happens when you get a little bit of a bidding war, right?
Yeah,
On a sub two, yeah. And that was a sub two deal. And of course, when you do the sub two deals, and I can't remember, I think his interest rate on that was just ridiculous. It was, I know it wasn't more than 3.5. It was under three
yeah,
and a half percent or something, I think like that. So, which is why you wanted to hold it in there. But man, sometimes, like you said, sometimes the quick nickel is better than the slow dime. So,
yeah, yeah. This was definitely the case there, and it was the buyers still got a really good deal on it too. They got
yeah, yeah,
a 340-ish thousand dollar house for what 305 I think is what they went under contract for. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
were
And it's totally livable. Like it doesn't absolutely need anything, right?
yeah
It's just outdated. I mean, you could move in past the occupancy thing and move in, tomorrow.
right.
So yeah, but boy, that's curious. Which makes it even more of a head scratcher on our townhouse, which is literally half a mile away from
Yeah,
that
across the
house.
street, across the road. Yeah,
Yeah, it is pretty much across the road down the street. That is right.
yeah.
It's just it must have been the HOA, which now is reduced in price. So yeah, we'll see
Was it
what
really? I
happens.
didn't know that. Did it?
Yeah, we'll see. It went down $100 a month.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, let's see. Now we're already getting into some deals, like we're doing the student deals. So what is the main topic for today? On today is creative real estate investing mastery podcast, Mr.
I
Ryan.
saw you glance over on that one, by
I
the way.
did. You see, because I have our blueprint hanging up right here next to me. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I will just I'm just going to paint a picture for folks, if you will, because this actually did happen to me a long time ago when I was holding rental properties. If you can imagine, you're sitting down uh, to a nice Thanksgiving dinner, really, and you're just ready to load up on all of that just wonderful fattening and sleep inducing, get into that sleep induced coma. But and then and guess what? You get a phone call, and it's someone. It's one of your tenants. You head out to the property because they've got a clogged sink, and then come to find out, guess what they've been doing? They've been jamming turkey and all kinds of stuff from their wonderful Thanksgiving dinner down the kitchen sink. So uh, on this particular podcast, we're going to talk about why rental properties are a trap. Not just because of you can get property management to handle those situations for you, provided it all makes sense to pay them to do it. But we're going to talk about the financial aspect of it as well, and then of course everyone who watches this knows we love the seller finance model. And so we're going to do a little bit of a comparison there and hopefully not repeat too much of what we've talked about before. But sometimes it's inevitable. You just kind of,
Well, I don't. We can repeat some stuff. We have a bunch of new subscribers, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that on the YouTube channel or not, but we could repeat some stuff. But just before we get going, too, your microphone, it's going soft, loud, just as a logistical
is your,
item.
is your radio on in the background, by the way?
It's my radio. Yes, actually, it is.
You might
I
want
can go
to check.
shut that off.
You might want to check because I think that's the way that this platform works. When we were in Mexico, I told you about that. It's like it. And I can talk straight into it, but if it's picking up something through your mic, it will lower the volume on. It's trying to pick up. See, I can hear it. I can hear it in the background, but it's trying to pick that stuff up, and so
Okay.
it cuts off one stream to pick up the other.
Well, I do remember you telling me that, and for some reason I just forget and I leave it on because it's actually upstairs. I am going to pause for the call, so you take it over for a second, and I'm going to go shut that off because your in and out thing is driving me crazy. So I will be right back. Uno momento.
All right. So while he's checking that out, let's talk about these rentals for just a couple of minutes. Everyone's been to probably some sort of, I don't know, some sort of conference. I know I've been to probably a couple hundred of them, and every one of those conferences thinks that that buy and hold and passive income is generated through rentals. And I'm just going to have to be honest and just say that it's either one of two things. It's either those folks really don't hold rental properties, or they've got something to sell. Because I've been in rental properties. I was in rental properties for the first 5 years of my illustrious real estate investing career, and I experienced nothing of the sort. I still hold rental properties to this day. I do have a partner on those that kind of manages those for me, and I literally, I mean, I would have a tough time sitting down and telling you, number one, how many we have, and number two, I certainly couldn't tell you the ad. Well, I might be able to tell you a couple addresses, but most of those seminars and most of those conferences are just a bunch of gurus standing up there talking about passive income and how rental properties are this pie in the sky type of type of investment. And I'm telling you, I did it for 5 years, and I will never ever look back again. I won't. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a background about the properties that I hold now, I'm going to tell you how much I hate being a landlord. My properties now that I hold as rentals, I am a 50-50 partner with my business partner. What I do, the deal that we have is that I go out, I find the properties, I find the money for the properties, I get everything done, I get them closed, and I literally bring her in as a 50% owner. And a lot of people think I'm crazy for doing that, but I'm telling you, number one, I wouldn't buy it if I had to turn it into a rental and manage it myself. I wouldn't do it. So I would be losing out on that cash flow. So in my mind, it's like, okay, I can go out, I can find the deal, I can find the money, I can get it closed. I bring her in as 50% partner. She is 100%. She's got nothing in this deal, nothing. And so she becomes the kind of, by way of ownership, she becomes the manager of those properties as well. That's the deal. So at the very least, I get to monetize those rental properties, but I still don't have, you know, she has 99.9% of the management management responsibilities on those. So, uh, you know, I can hear it now. I can hear people maybe listening to this right now. Oh my gosh, you give up 50% of your equity? You darn tootin'. You're darn right I do, because I hate being a landlord. I hate it. I'm the worst landlord on the planet.
So one might ask you the question, is not to put you on the spot too, because our sub two empire model is to buy creatively and then sell creatively,
Mhm.
right? It's like on an agreement for deed or wrap mortgage or whatever, and we finance over the top of however we acquired the property. And so why would you want that model? So in other words, if you have all these properties, you're finding these properties anyway. Why are those properties specifically straight rentals as opposed to doing the model?
Yeah, and that's a good question. Normally, if I were to find a deal in an area that I like, that wasn't purely a rental area. We have areas all around here. In fact, these are the same types of areas in every major metropolitan area. Uh, some of these areas are just rentals. I mean, it's just probably you're looking at 40 to 50% of all the homes in these particular areas are rentals. It's very hard to find good quality buyers. And I will tell you that most of our properties um, that are rentals are Section 8 rentals. So it's like we're not building appreciation on these properties because, or not much anyway. because of the areas that they're in. And if you can't do that, it doesn't make sense to, it doesn't really make sense to, or it's very hard to find a good buyer in those areas. They're just not desirable for homeowners. Some of them might be in kind of, I don't know, uh, C grade schools, C and lower, C
See,
minus and lower.
yeah, see, no, I neither you nor I do. We call it war zone, which is like D and below. But yeah, I would say some of those that you're talking about your straight rental areas are C, yeah,
Yeah.
C districts. Yeah,
So I mean, some people can do quite well. I mean, obviously there's slow flips out there that are, they're seller financing these homes in some of these types of areas that I'm talking about. Um, but it can be problematic, and it can be even worse depending on how you convey title to those folks. It can be even even harder to get those folks out of your properties. So that's the reason I do it. Um, Also, sometimes it just doesn't make sense financially, um, to not make it a rental. So
yeah,
if you're doing some kind of tax planning or something like that, you know, seller finance deals, that's one of the trade-offs. You don't get a lot of the tax benefits that you do out of rentals. So if you're doing some tax planning, and you want to take that depreciation, you need a big depreciation write-off. You can take that depreciation on those properties. You can take all the capex, all of that stuff, to reduce your taxable income.
yep.
So that's why I do it. I don't do it often anymore, and in fact, it's probably been about 2 years since. Well, we have one, um, but it's that one was kind of inadvertent, kind of an inadvertent. We turned it into a rental, but
Oh yes, that. Yeah, that's a rental by accident,
rental.
by circumstance and accident. Yes, yes, yes. It wasn't intended, but yeah.
But I haven't sought out any of those properties in probably 2 years. I certainly haven't converted one into a rental in a couple of years now. But still do business with my business partner. Everything. She's cool, but and she kind of knows the deals. It's kind of the perfect match, really, if you ask me. Anyway, it's just my way of being able to monetize these deals that I would otherwise normally pass up. So it might be a little crazy, but it works for me, and that's all that matters.
Well, I think that's a big point. We don't spend. Well, I think we mentioned it at times too, but I just want to reiterate the point that when you're first starting out as a real estate investor, we highly recommend that you focus on what you want to do. Like our model is to acquire things creatively, subject to specifically, and seller finance, right? That is a model, and it has a lot of upside, which we'll talk about here when we're comparing the rentals. But as you mentioned, having straight rentals over here too, there's nothing wrong with that. We just know that's not something that we want to have a lot of anymore because of the downside of being a landlord. And as you mentioned, I just want to reiterate this point too. There is nothing friggin' passive about being a landlord of a straight rental. Zero passive about being a rental, a landlord of a rental. Even if you find, and I go out of my way to vet and try to find really solid tenants. In fact, most of my tenants in the rentals that we still have, which are actually I'm converting over to the seller finance model right now as we speak. But anyway, the ones there, I have them long term. I have them 2 years, 3 years, 4 years before they decide to leave for whatever reason, and they're really good tenants. But I still have the call. I still have the frozen pipe call in the middle of the night, which actually happened not on Thanksgiving, like your example, but that happened, right? And the pipes didn't burst or anything. Like it wasn't the sky was not falling, but I mean it was still an issue that has to be addressed. And you can put a lot of maintenance and repairs. You can have your rental agreement say whatever you want. Like mine says, up to a certain point, you're responsible for the maintenance and repairs because you're the one that is using the sink. So if you clog the sink, like that's not my problem. You clogged it, you unclog it. And I just want to say that's fine and that's all agreeable up front too. Push come to shove in a court of law, I don't really know what a judge would say about
You
that
took
too.
the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
Right. Just be aware of those things. Like I do that. Sometimes I put home warranties on the properties and say if you have an issue and you need somebody to come out and unclog the sink or whatever, you pay that fee. You pay the $100 fee to have that service call come out there up to a certain point, and then I stop it at a certain point
Yeah.
up to all that too. So there's lots of ways that you can make your life easier as a straight landlord. So I just wanted to point that out, but there's nothing passive. If you really want passive income as a real estate investor, you need to just give us your money to put in our real estate fund.
That's
That's true passive income as a real estate investor.
yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
No other way to do it.
That
Yep.
is literally the only way to do it.
Yep.
Somebody else completely manages all that. Um,
Yep. And
one
I'm going
other
to put that up there since I just see how I seamlessly wove that into the
smooth,
discussion.
man. That was real smooth.
Yes, that was good. So,
But yeah, this is the one huge thing. I mean, you and I both. I know the seminars you've been to, the conferences, and I've probably forgotten most of the ones that I've been to because they've just been. I was over the top with it. It was kind of like that. What was that movie where that guy, where those people? Oh, it was it Fight Club?
oh, yeah.
Where they go around to these different groups. They were like addicted to going to these groups. That was me with real estate conferences. But something you very rarely hear at any of these when we're talking about passive income, nobody seems to want to give you the downside. This is what I say. I think they either have something to sell you or they're just not experienced with it. That's the only rational explanation I can come up with as to why they don't talk about tenant turnover. Tenant turnover, all of that passive income that you claim or that you think that you're earning off of this property can be completely wiped out with one single turnover of a tenant. So if you're making, say, I don't know, maybe you're doing really well. Maybe you're doing well on your spread, and you're making $1,000 a month of cash flow off of a rental property, which in our area that's pretty darn good. That's good cash flow.
Yep.
That's 1 grand a year. If that tenant turns around and moves out after that 1 year lease that they've signed with you, maybe even the 2 year lease, you've got to get back into that property. And I've said this before. Today, maybe 10 years ago, it would have made sense. It would make more sense to own a rental property because 10 years ago, the costs and the prices for materials and things like that to be able to do one of these to be able to perform a make ready on a rental property, you could probably get away with spending $3,000 to $5,000 on tenant turnover. Today, that doesn't exist. You're
No.
looking at a minimum of $10,000 to $12,000.
Yeah.
That's all, of course, dependent upon you know how good your tenant is and all that good stuff. But just to go in and do one single make ready on a rental property can wipe out a year, possibly even 2 years of your cash flow. Now, maybe you got lucky and maybe that property's appreciated. Doesn't it seems like a lot of properties in a lot of areas over the past few years we've had this inflation, so things have followed inflation. Property values have increased, and maybe you have enough appreciation in that property that you can go ahead and cash out, do a refi and cash out on that property, and maybe you can get that cash you need for those turnovers elsewhere. Um, but for if you're borrowing from a bank, as we all know, banks are going to have either a 3 or a 5 year. What do they call that again? It's called. Um, it's like
Well, technically
evaluation.
it's an arm, but on the commercial notes they call it renewal. It's the renewal, 3-year renewal, and it just renews at whatever the rate is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and what also the reason I bring that up is because generally speaking, there's a lot of lenders, and I have a couple of loans like this myself. There are prepayment penalties in those loans. So, and they're usually graduated, or Would that be degraduated?
D, yes, de-escalate.
De-escalated. That's a good way.
De-escalated. Yes. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
So like it's like the first year of that 3 year, I will just call it an arm, even though it's not technically an arm. That 3 year period, they're going to have a prepayment penalty in there of 3%, 2%, 1%, as the years go by. So, if you're in that situation, you have tenant turnover and you're in that situation with a lender a commercial lender, there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to be able to refi that property anyway. So there, all this cash flow that you've made off of this property, or quote passive income, now is you're turning around, you're dumping it right back into that property. And so I don't know, it's a tough thing unless that property is really appreciating at a fast rate. It's very hard it can be very hard to actually realize any passive income. And a lot of people that I know these days, they're just maintaining. So they're maintaining the property, they're keeping it up to date, and they're banking on appreciation later is what they're doing. And I mean, it's an okay way to invest. That's kind of what I mean. If you threw your money in the stock market, that's kind of what you're banking on. You're kind of banking on that value of that stock going up. But it does nothing for your cash flow. It's it hopefully you're getting into these deals that do have some appreciation, and hopefully you're cash flowing them, and hopefully you've got good tenants. But if any one of those three things goes wrong, you can be in real serious trouble.
Yep.
So,
and two, don't gloss over the fact that you call them make readies. The make ready may take you 2 months, right? So it may take you 4 weeks to do the make ready. You have no income. There's no rental income in that month. And then you've got to market it and put somebody in there, which could take you a whole nother month. And so now you're already down 2 months of the year.
yeah.
So are you going to then recoup? And maybe you can, if you're doing a nice update or whatever, maybe you can increase the rent, and you can make the same amount you did the previous year, but you're not making more, right? Because you had the property off the market for two months plus.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't keep it honest. And again, we're not trying to, or at least I hope we're not coming across like it's fine to invest in straight rentals. Like it's totally fine. Like we're just suggesting something different now from our experience and where we are in our real estate investing careers, right? The old crotchety veterans, right, so to speak, of the experienced people. We're just suggesting that maybe there's another good way, which is our Sub to Empire seller finance method way, right? That's what we're suggesting.
Yeah. As you're saying all this, I just it dawned on me that there are, you were talking about where might maybe some old crotchety folks. Well, there are some old crotchety folks that have been landlords for decades.
Yes.
Like, I mean, they've just over and over. And they're usually kind of the mom and pop type of folks where they don't mind going in and, fixing up a property on their own. They probably only own, 3 to maybe 10 properties, and that's what gets them through life, pays their bills. And that's fine. It's just, at some point, let me just say this. I think that if you want to scale using that model, kind of the self-management thing, either you have to bring management on board and have them and pay them to help manage it for you, or you go the complete other direction, which is an extreme, I know, but this is how slumlords are created. This is exactly how people get into this trap of when this turnover happens, and they have to do these make readies on these rental properties. They'll painting over light switches, and everything's one solid color because it's so expensive to do that make ready. So yeah, I don't like to crap on it, but it is not what the gurus would have you believe.
Yes, it's not all rainbow and sunshines and collecting cash flow. Do you collect cash flow? Of course you do. And like you said, that's the reason to have rental properties is cash flow. Maybe not so much the appreciation, and unless right? Because you mentioned it depends on the area and what you're trying to get out of the property, right? Which requires some experience and knowledge of your local market about what you're trying to do and all that stuff. Like I don't have any interest in that. I don't have any interest in going into a high rental area market and buying half a dozen properties. At the height, I probably would say I had 12 or 14, maybe 15. So about 12 to 15 straight rental properties where we were landlords, self-managing all of them while working 70 or 80 hours a week for the man in human resources.
Mhm.
You can't. So something had to give for me. Like I can't do that and live very long like doing that. And so either we had to scale up, like you said, and say, okay, so now I have to get property management and I got to do this and all that, or you scale back for different reasons, or you switch your model. So for me, it was switching the model and scaling back.
Yeah.
Is what we decided to do. And I just want to point out for the record too, we've mentioned this before, but I just want to highlight this again. If you're doing straight rentals, okay, if you're doing straight rentals as a landlord over here, right, and you're active, you're not passive when you do that, right? You're actively managing. It's going to take you 25 or 30 properties to reach your cash flow, your monthly cash flow goal, because you have vacancies and you have all of that to take into account. So for every four properties you have, you need another one in case one of those four goes vacant to make up the difference of the cash flow. So then you get this cycle. So now you need 25 or 30 properties to reach your, I'll just make it up, your $8,000 a month cash flow, net cash flow, right? Not gross, net cash flow, $8,000 a month. You need 25 or 30 properties. But if you do our seller finance model, you need half that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's
So that's the difference, because and then you don't have as many properties, actual individual properties to manage and worry about. Is it still a lot? Of course. But again, you're not the landlord. We're suggesting you do seller financing there and all that maintenance and repairs, because they're purchasing the property from you on either an agreement for deed or you wrapped it, right? Depending on where you are and what you want it to do. So you're just collecting that monthly cash flow. You're really the bank now. You're the note lord. You converted yourself from the landlord to the note lord, which is what we've done. Even though you still have a package of rental properties that you do primarily for your tax, right? To offset your package of seller finance properties that you have over here from a tax perspective. So that's the
yeah.
reason that's a primary reason you're doing that. So we're
Yeah.
just saying that, hey, maybe there's a better way that you could like partner with us on.
Yeah. That's my big kind of my big hiccup, and um, the thing that I don't like about a lot of people teaching other folks about rental properties, and I don't know, I've said it a million times, but this idea, they tend to think that there's this calculation that applies to everyone. You take what your monthly uh, nut net, what your monthly net cash requirements are. You buy enough rental properties to meet that monthly nut, right? The thing they don't tell you is that literally 40 cents of every single dollar, and we've done the math
Oh, yep,
up, down, sideways, it does
yep,
not matter.
yep,
40 cents of every dollar that you earn in rents, in cash flow, is going back into that property
yep.
on an
It's
annual.
expenses. Yep. One way or another, it's an expense, right?
Debt service,
Yep,
insurance, repairs,
yep,
40 cents of every dollar. So if you really think about that, let's say it took you, let's say that in order to meet your monthly cash flow requirements, they're going to tell you you need 10 properties. Well, that's the math isn't mathing, because 40 cents of every single dollar you earn is going back into those properties. You need probably quadruple that number of properties if you want to be in a really comfortable spot, you know.
yep.
And you know, because once you get past 10 or 15 or so like that, you're going to want to hire management. It's going to be
Yeah,
you're
you
going to
can
have to
do it.
want to
Yeah,
hire people.
trust me, it was not going well. I was stressed. Like from having personally experienced it, like yeah, that's not the way to go, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough business. It's not it's not for everybody, and I'm certainly one of those people. I couldn't hack it. It was too much spending on my. I was like you. I was working for the man as well, and I even tried to do uh, rent to own, lease purchases.
Yeah, yeah, the options, lease with options. Yeah, yeah,
Just thinking that, well, if they're giving they're paying me an option fee. They're paying me for this option contract, and so obviously that's a larger chunk of money than a rental deposit is. Maybe they're going to take better care of this property. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And you are still a landlord at that point.
yep. Still landlord with a little extra cash that you'll probably still have to use to to make ready when they don't buy, but execute the option to purchase. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was one good thing. I mean, I kind of looked at those option payments or option fees as kind of funny money, and I
yeah,
could kind of pack it away. And when the AC went out or something like that, I could dip into that. But so it did help. It did help a little bit, but ultimately, you're still not dealing with people who are of the mindset that they want to build equity and actually own something.
yeah.
So they just have a different view on things. They don't necessarily take care of the properties as well. That was the majority of my issue. And then of course, you're still a landlord. So any big items that they couldn't swing, because I did have kind of a clause like that in my rental agreements as well. But any big items they couldn't swing, sewer lateral issues,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
you know,
The HVAC goes out. The big stuff.
yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah,
water heater goes out. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, and again, all of this can be remedied if you have the right deal, if you bought it right, if you have a property that's well inspected, it's a solid property, you vet your tenants right, and you have good quality tenants, and you have good cash flow. If any one of those four items, you know, takes a nosedive, it's a domino effect. It's like the rest of them. It's very hard to recover if any one of those four things, um, fails at any given time in the process. So,
Yep.
um,
So let's real quick, and I know people that follow us regularly would know the model, but the Sub to Empire model, right? So we acquire the property creatively, it's on Sub 2 or seller financing or whatever, and then we put an end buyer in there. So by that, we mean we seller finance to a person that we find in there. Again, on that can be agreement for deed,
preferably,
pros and cons of that. It can be a straight wrap mortgage, and pros and cons to that, right? In there, so you just need to decide which way you want to do it. And of course, sometimes the state dictates, like you can only do a wrap mortgage in Texas. There's no agreement for deeds in Texas.
mhm.
So just as an example, so you just kind of you have to know what needs to be done if you're going to sell a finance model. And it's all about, right? So now you're converting yourself from the landlord to the note lord, right? So you're the bank now. You're the bank. And you've got that note inside the agreement for deed, or you've got the note connected with a deed of trust on the wrap. Okay. So you are now switching your mindset, right, to landlord, and you're already giving up some tax benefits though, right? You're sure you're giving up some tax benefits when you do that, but you're enhancing your ability, your monthly cash flow ability, right? And you get paid 3 times. This is where the model pays you off. You collect an initial down payment from them when you do the concept, and our rule of thumb is 10%. Sometimes we vary depending on the property and the circumstance. Sometimes we let them pay the down payment over time, like all kinds of things that you can do, right, to work with your people. But generally, we're on 10%, which we hope or we're targeting that gets our acquisition cost back and then some. So we're made whole from whatever our acquisition cost potentially was. Okay. Then it's monthly cash flow. And again, just like when you have a rental property, you want, on a net monthly basis, you want $300 a month, $400 a month, whatever yours is. Mine's 350 a door. same thing here. Like, we don't want to do this for less. And I actually have a higher one for when we create the notes. Like, I want $500 a month cash flow, not more on that. Like, totally passive, right? Much more, well, much more passive, 90% passive, as opposed to being a landlord, right? And then it's just about, well, you still have to find the end buyer. And what if they trash the place too? Okay, these people are buying. It is a different set of people than the straight tenants. Different set. Your marketing, the people that are looking to buy, even rent to own, although that mindset's a little different too, that are actually wanting to purchase, that is a different group of people than your straight tenants. So already your pool is different. Okay, so keep that in mind. You still need to pick out the right one and vet them, by the way. Like, you need to vet the income because you're creating the note, you're being the bank. You have to underwrite them. You still have to underwrite them appropriately to make sure that they can make the monthly payment.
Yep.
Right. So just a little bit about the model. There's still things that you have to do, even if you're trying to convert to the seller finance model. It's just different, right? You're dealing with a different pool of people. You're dealing with a different circumstance. The notes, the promissory notes, the contract for deeds, as opposed to the rental lease agreements. So
Yep.
it's just different, similar but different. Just a little shift in mindset makes a big difference. It's been
My
very
goal,
powerful for me. I know you love it a lot
yeah,
more. You hate being a landlord, but yeah, I mean, so
the
that's
goal. I mean, it fits the bill perfectly for me because, um, I love the acquisition side of it. I love figuring out all the creative financing part of it. It's just piecing these things together and making the deal work. But once that's done, it's like, okay, that felt great. Like, this was awesome. I got a good deal on this. I closed this deal. I got this thing done in a week, man. I'm done.
yep. Right. There's no continuing issue with
Yeah.
it. Yes, right.
But after that, I find, get my buyer in place. And my hope from that point on is that I either never hear from my buyer again and they just go to term. They're just rocking and rolling. Or that the only other time I want to hear from them is when, like, hey, I'm going to
I'm ready to
refinance.
pay you off.
Yep, I'm ready to pay it off.
What's my payoff number?
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. That is a that's a kind of a bittersweet feeling too, because it's like, I'm gonna lose a little bit of a cash flow on, a little bit of my monthly cash
Yes.
on this,
Yep.
but I'm also gonna be, if I built this right, if I structured this right, I'm gonna have a nice big fat paycheck at the end as well. So
Yes. Oh,
that's
yes. The third way, I think I neglected to say that.
right.
Yes, it's when you get paid off
Yeah.
in the end, right? Yep.
Yeah. So I honestly, I'd rather have the cash flow than the big payoff, but um, the ultimate goal is to get these folks, get them into possibly a better interest rate, a better situation where,
Yep.
and that does happen. And I will tell you this: I try to convert many folks from the rent to own model into buyers. Literally, probably maybe 5% of all of the people of my lease option buyers, maybe 5% actually converted.
I've
And the seller finance folks, either they're not looking to refinance, they're totally happy with where they're at, or and it doesn't matter to me either way. Where with a rental, it did matter. It mattered, and it hurt a lot. You know what I mean? Um, it just was, because you knew once they went past that period, an option contract has an expiration date on it. Once they went past that period and they could not perform on that option, then now you've got a straight rental, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then I even had some folks who who moved out and asked for their option payment back because they thought, and I thought I did a pretty good job of explaining this to them, and even reading through these contracts with these folks, but they thought that was some kind of
refundable.
yeah, refundable money. And I've gotten in some heated arguments about that, really heated. I had one guy that threatened to kill me over it, but I'm like, no, dude, that's not how this works.
That's not what it says. Right?
Yeah. But so anyway,
Interesting.
yeah, I'm just full convert, full full on seller finance, and I'll still, again, if I picked up a deal somewhere, found a really good deal on a property in a rental area, I just follow my other model. I kind of got both scenarios covered, where I would maybe turn that deal into a rental and bring my trusty partner in on it.
I I was curious because you mentioned that you've approached your tenants in the straight rentals about, hey, would you like to buy this property? Like, I'll seller finance it to you, and they just, like you said, that's a small percentage, like 5 to 10%.
Well, I
I
was referring to the lease option folks. I did convert
Oh yeah,
for a seller.
yeah, but even that, I was just thinking back to myself because we've actually had some pretty good success of selling the properties to our tenants,
Mhm.
but we also had that mindset going in, and I'd write it into the lease agreement if you want to purchase, and we didn't even sell it. They straight bought it, like they didn't sell or finance it. They got their own loan and straight bought it. And I would revisit it and I would say, hey, when the time was right, I'm like, I'm glad to renew the lease, but would you, this is your third renewal, your third year too. Do you want to buy the place? And they've done that. I'd say it's probably been maybe a quarter of them. But again, I have, mine are bigger single family homes and stuff like that, not in rental areas necessarily, um, in there too. So been a little different situation. So I was just thinking, but you're right. I mean, it's a small number because it's a mindset shift for the straight tenant. Like when you're a straight tenant, you have a tenant mindset, straight runner, and it's hard to shift over sometimes for people in there. Um, but I was just, I guess I've been blessed with being able to do some of that over the years too, without even thinking about it. So it just depends on the property and the circumstance, I guess.
Yeah,
Long story short.
yeah. I think I don't know. I could never see myself being a landlord again for sure. But you know, to each their own, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I guess the lesson here is uh, understand what to expect from it. It's
Yeah. Eyes wide open.
yeah,
Eyes wide open.
it's
Yeah.
not passive. It's not maintenance free. It's not going to free,
Mhm.
for the most part. It's not going to free up your time.
Yep.
Um, and there is a much better way. Now, we've talked about it. And we're not going to get into it here. We're already 50 minutes into this thing,
Yeah.
but there are trade offs. And I'll just give you the big one between rentals and seller finance. The big trade off is that I can never raise the price on a seller finance deal if I give them a fixed terms, meaning if I give them a 30-year amortization schedule, and no, which we don't do prepayment penalties, we don't do any of that stuff. We just do a straight 30-year term. So once that amount of cash flow, or once that set number, or once that cash flow number is set, it's never going to increase, never.
Yeah. Yeah.
So make sure it's a good deal right up front. Make sure you're getting, on these seller finance deals, it's very easy to get, 6, 7, 800 bucks a month in cash
Yep.
flow.
Yep.
Um, but you can never raise that. You can
Yeah.
never.
It's
At
locked
that
in.
point, it's locked in. Where with the rentals, obviously you can go in, you can raise rents, according to the market. You can also be forced to lower your rents. So
According to the market. And this
according
is
to
the
the market.
first time, by the way, just FYI, this is the first time since prior to COVID, pre-pandemic, that the rental rates across the nation have decreased.
I would believe it.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I was talking to some Section 8 investors. Section 8 is now their payouts are, I forgot what it is. I forgot the name of the term that they use, and it's different all over the country. But it's they go in and they pull rental comps in any particular area, and that's what they base what they'll pay in rents on. And a lot of these, in fact, we have a student that happened to. He went from getting, I think, 2,100 or 2,200 bucks a month per side in this duplex. He had tenant turnover. Went to go have his new Section 8 tenant placed. They dropped his rate by $300 a month.
Yeah.
He's getting 1,800 a month now. Meanwhile, literally the door across the hall, because it's a duplex, the door across the hall is still getting $2,200 a month. So it's kind of crazy. So but that can happen for sure.
Yeah, you have to be careful. And I just want to say something about when you do the seller financing, you're locking in your typically. I mean, I guess you could have escalation and all that too, but typically you're locking in your, like you said, you're locking in your down payment, you're locking in your cash flow, you're locking in the end sales price, right? All that stuff is being locked in. But also, don't forget that is constant.
Yeah.
You don't have to go in there and worry about the property being vacant and you're losing cash flow on that, right? You don't have to. So there's something to be said for consistency as well, which we prefer at this point. So
Well, yeah. Also, if you think about this, this is one of the big reasons that buyers buy. This is why I think there's such a big market for buyers, because they get a set, other than taxes and insurance, because that's always going to go up. It's never going down, but it will
yeah,
always go up. But that's one of the incentives that they have, is that they're not going to get this drastic. We just saw what 2022 to 2024, we saw these absolutely massive increases in the rent. They're never going to experience that as a seller finance buyer. They might, their taxes and insurance might increase a little bit every year, but it's manageable. It's usually only a couple $100, maybe 500 even per year. It's way better than 500 per month, and so it's a real incentive for people to, and that's why there's a real market for seller finance buyers out there. It's kind of like my motto, which is the easy thing to do. The easy thing to do is always the most expensive. Always easy to go
seems
rent.
like that, doesn't it? Yes, it seems like that's the way it works
You
out.
can go rent a property; it's going to be the most expensive, or you can go buy a property and it's going to be way less expensive, but it's a little bit harder to get into. It's a little bit harder to find that buyer, or it's a little bit harder for that buyer to find your property and actually qualify for it. But if they can and they can do that, it's going to save them tons and tons and tons of money. They're going to build equity and all these good things that come with home ownership. So that's my I'm off my pulpit now, and then
It's all good. So we're not trying to, again, we're not trying to say that having rental properties and being a landlord is a legitimate real estate investing, but I don't even call it a niche. Like most people, that's what most people do when they, become quote unquote a real estate investor. Totally fine. We're just suggesting that perhaps it's time for you to level up or switch some of those properties into another model, right? And have some of both like you do. And that there are lots of advantages for doing that.
yeah,
Number one for me is stress management, brother.
yeah,
So that's what we're converting them all over to. So
yeah. So I think one thing if we could just send folks home with one little challenge. Those of you that are holding rental properties right now, one challenge: pick one of your rental properties in one of the better areas that you own in. The next tenant turnover, get in there, because you're gonna have to spend this money anyway. Get in there, do a I'm not gonna say a rehab, but do a slightly better
yep,
or moderately better make ready.
yep,
Then go find yourself an owner finance buyer
yep,
and experience what that is like. It
yep.
is totally night and day. Um, I mean, I don't hear from these folks. I mean, I just don't hear from them at all. Our buyer we placed out there in our new build.
Yep.
Have you heard? I haven't heard
Nope.
of them. Not a thing for
Nope.
them.
We just collect the monthly payments, brother.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very very interesting. Totally different. A little bit of a mind shift, and it's just been a godsend. Really, it's been awesome.
Yep. And if you don't know how to convert that person over or find them, then you should partner with us. Last shameless plug of the day. You should partner with us you got the code right there on the screen. So just hit us up. That's why we're here.
That's right. All right, guys. You got anything else before we
Nope.
close?
Have a great week, and we'll be back at it